maybe I can start with the question of how were you taking care of your health when you were a cardiologist, since you were supposed to be really taking care of people and optimizing them? And so what did you do for yourself?
Yeah, that's a great question. So, I was always an athlete. And I played some basketball, played some soccer. I played in college, I played freshman soccer. I wasn't able to continue on the on the soccer route in college because of the chemistry laboratories cutting into practice time. But I've always been athletic, and I enjoyed that. And even when I started medical school, I would run in the evenings. Like I would, get up, go to class, study till about 11 o'clock at night, and then finish the day by going for a run through the streets of Philadelphia. So I went to medical school at Temple, and I've always, been in good shape. But then, of course, you get to the last 2 years of medical school, there's no time for anything except, the rotations and being on call, et cetera. And then from there, you go into an internship and then residency and then fellowship. And so, I kind of followed the path that many people do, which is we end up sacrificing our health for the sake of our professions, building a family, et cetera. And so really, I had a big wake-up call in my 40s when I went out to go for a run, and I could only run 2 blocks. Right. And when I was playing soccer, of course, I could run all day. And so I had to stop after 2 blocks. And I was like, oh my gosh, this has really gotten out of control. So my first, kind of brush with my own mortality, so to speak, or my own physicality and the loss thereof was in my early 40s. So I started riding a bike to work. I started taking the stairs. I started doing some runs. And, 3 months later, I was able to run 3 miles. I was biking 25 miles on the weekends and things like that. So I was able to get back into quote unquote shape. But the interesting thing is that when I got into my 50s, what worked in my 40s was no longer working. And this is one of the things that the audience needs to understand is that just because you know how to get in shape when you're 18 doesn't mean that's going to work when you're 40. It doesn't mean that what you did in your 40s is going to work in your 50s. And so you have to be constantly adapting to stay where you want to be. And so in my 50s, I started putting on weight. I was getting some brain fog. I would have loss of energy that was really quite dramatic, very hard to get out of bed. I had all kinds of things going on. And when I would come under a lot of stress, I would become anxious, and then I would feel myself just go over a cliff of depression, right? Like it's not like you could talk yourself out of it. You would just be depressed. And so I went in and got checked out in my early 50s. And that's when I was told, hey, you know what? Everything checks out for your age. You're just getting older. Why don't you take an antidepressant? So that was an incredibly existential moment for me, because now, I'd gotten in shape in my 40s. Now I'm a snowboarder, a mountain biker, still running. I've got kids, we enjoy lots of activities together. And now it's like, oh my gosh, it's going to be downhill from here. And it's like, my dad died with dementia. So it was like, okay, I mean, is this the path that I'm on now? Is this what's going to happen to me? So I realized at that point that sick care, that I'd been trained in, that we were trained in, was really failing me. And so I went out and threw myself into age management, functional integrative medicine. And then 2.5 years later, I figured out, everything that was going on with me was subclinical hypothyroidism, not picked up in blood tests, only picked up with biometric testing, like a resting metabolic rate or reflex testing. I figured out that I was hormonally depleted, which I didn't know. I also figured out that genetically, I don't make certain neurotransmitters very efficiently. I don't methylate very well. And this was part of my anxiety, part of my depression. I had some very specific supplement needs that not everybody has. And then when it comes to feeling tired, the thyroid was a piece of it, but I also don't convert inactive thyroid, T4 thyroid it's called, into active thyroid, T3, in my brain very efficiently. So until I got on T3 and T4 in combination, I didn't feel great. But when I did get on these different things, some testosterone and DHEA and T3 and T4 and the right supplements, all of a sudden it was like, holy cow, I feel great again. I feel fantastic. And I'm like, here I was 2.5 years ago looking at a pathway of decline and making peace with aging. And now I feel great. And so I can't bring myself to practice sick care anymore. I want to do this. This is too much fun to help people feel great. So anyway, that was really the stimulus for making the switch. And that's kind of how I got into it.
Wow. That's fascinating. Yeah. I don't think many people talk about how what may work in your 30s and 40s may not work for your 50s.
Yeah, exactly.
People think about fitness as a, set,
right.
route, that you need to do this and this and this, and then you'll be good.
Yeah, but it's nothing, it's anything but that, quite honestly. So, what does it mean to be fit, right? What does it actually mean to be fit? Well, our definition of it is you're fast, agile, strong, quick, balanced, right? With great cardiovascular endurance and great recovery. And when you're 18, lifting some weights and going for a run gets the job done. But when you're in your 50s, 60s, 70s, 80s, even in your 40s, if you're not training specifically for quickness, we lose fast twitch muscle fibers as we age. So if you're not training those to bring those back online, you lose that. Balance gets deteriorated. And really, when you're exercising, what you're really training is your nervous system. We always think about, well, we're training our muscles, we're building our muscles. Well, guess what? The muscles are nothing without the nervous system. And, just look at a stroke patient, right? They can't move their arm at all. So it's really the nervous system that we're training, and it's neuromuscular performance. And it's this item called proprioception, where you know where you are in space, right? So that if you do fall, you don't get hurt. And you don't fall like you normally would. So if you're not doing balance training, dynamic balance training, and neuromuscular reaction time training, and all these things that your brain has the capacity to benefit from, it has enough neuroplasticity to stay young, but you've got to feed it the right stimulus to make it stay young. And again, you don't need that when you're 20, but you do need that as you get older. And if you're not in a program that's basically assessing you to understand where you are in this whole spectrum of things, and then prescribing the right exercises for you. If all you're doing is I'm getting on the elliptical and I'm lifting some weights and I do yoga, it's just not going to get the job done. It's so much better than sitting on the couch. It's lovely. It's wonderful, but it doesn't make you young, right? And so our whole goal is to live young for a lifetime. That's why 100 is the new 30. And so we want to live young for a lifetime. So I wake up 27 every day, just so you know.